Welcome to this EUI Innovative Actions webinar on stakeholder mapping and engagement. My name is Antonella Radicchi, and I'm one of the EUI transfer experts.
And hi there, my name's Eddy Adams. I'm also one of the expert transfer team.
Today, we will introduce you to the EUI guidance on stakeholder mapping and engagement. This guidance is helpful for all EUI Innovative Actions partners, but it's especially designed for transfer partners. In this webinar, we will share with you some hints and tips and highlight some important takeaways. But trust us, the full document is definitely worth the read. So, Eddy, why does all of this matter?
Well, that's a great question, Antonella. And I guess the first thing to say is stakeholder participation engagement isn't easy. So why are we going to all this trouble to make it happen? And as you can see from the slides, in the first instance, it's a key principle of EUI's commitment to sustainable urban development. It's also part of the EU's policy objective 5, getting Europe closer to citizens, helping people understand the benefits and the impact of these investments. I think on top of that, from an expert perspective, we think it gets better results. We think it helps us to have better insights into the risks ahead. It helps with communicating some of the key messages. And also just it helps us extend our impact and reach. So in every way, it's effective and worthwhile. And that's why we're here today to try and get you on board to join the movement.
So, if you are new to stakeholder mapping and engagement, there are a few hints and tips that might be useful to consider. Number one, tap into the power of the collective. Local stakeholders have a wealth of knowledge, and you might be surprised at the benefits of bringing them into the conversation. Their input can add new perspectives and fresh ideas to your work. And remember, always give credit where it's due. Number two, be clear about what you need. People are busy, so set clear expectations from the start. Let them know how much time you're asking for, how they can contribute, and what role they will play. Clarity makes it easier for them to say yes. Number three, think about what their motivation can be. Put yourself in their shoes. What would motivate them to get involved? Whether it's a shared goal, professional growth, or community impact, understanding their perspective can help you build stronger, more engaged partnerships.
And those are all really key things. And to add to that, we'd maybe say, think about how you can make it a special experience. These people are busy, they have other demands on their time. Why would they want to engage with us? Why would they want to give up their time and participate in the work we're doing? Try and make it attractive for them. Don't invite them to a cold, dark hall and PowerPoint them to death in the middle of the winter time. Try and make it participative, fun, creative, and think about what you want to do to make sure they want to come back so that you'll see them again, hopefully next time, and they might even tell their friends and bring other people along. And a key part of that as well is just saying thank you, rewarding them in a way that's quite basic and just acknowledging that they're giving up their time. Quite often they're giving up their time for free. We're not paying them. So we can maybe think creatively about ways in which we can make it attractive and worthwhile for them. Can we connect them to some key people they might want to meet? Can we lock them into a community they're interested in matching up with? Can we give them professional development advantages that might be special and helpful for them? Can we bring them to transnational events so they have this amazing professional development opportunity? Can we think about cool, unusual venues they might want to come to? So, don't start thinking you have nothing to give. We have got things to give. And also, it's really important to just acknowledge that people like to be rewarded, they like to be thanked, they like to be acknowledged. So make sure you bear that in mind.
That's great. But how can you put these strategic tips into practice? One idea to consider is setting up a stakeholder action plan at the beginning of the work package transfer. While optional, a stakeholder action plan can be a valuable tool for engaging and retaining key stakeholders during your feasibility testing. It is also something you can integrate into your transfer roadmap. This is how it works. You can start with a clear vision and values to guide your stakeholder engagement and define what a strong stakeholder ecosystem looks like for your project. Then you can map and analyze key stakeholders, prioritize them, and assure inclusivity in your approach. Thirdly, you can develop and implement engagement strategies, including communication plans and retention tactics, to keep stakeholders involved. Furthermore, you can keep track of interaction by documenting meetings, workshops, and any shifts in your local stakeholder ecosystem. Last but not least, for ongoing success, you can schedule regular reviews and updates of your stakeholder action plan. These review rounds can also be integrated into your transfer roadmap as a built-in monitoring mechanism.
Thanks, Antonella. And so before we jump into talking about some of the tools, because we want to highlight some of them for you and go into them in a little bit more detail, let's just have a helicopter view of what the guidance gives us. The guidance is not exhaustive. We're not trying to cover every single base because that clearly would be a lifetime of PhDs, and no one would want to see that anyway. But we've tried to be specific and focused. We've also tried to reference other helpful sources like the RBAC toolbox, which are familiar to many of you, I'm sure. And we've also tried to make it as focused as possible on the needs of transfer partners, and to look at this whole question of innovation transfer through the lens of EUI. So you'll see from the table on the slide that essentially we've divided these tools into 3 different activities. The first one is about mapping and analyzing stakeholders at the beginning and actually continuing throughout the process, because these are loops rather than linear journeys quite often. Secondly, about communication engagement, and the third one about retention. So we talked earlier about the fact it's important to get people at the beginning, but you want them to come back. So this is a marathon, not a sprint. So we need to think about how we bake in retention, how we keep them coming back, how we need them differently at different points. And the final thing to say about the table is that we've tried to structure these tools around the 4 EU transfer stages. As you'll know, we have this 4-stage approach to innovation transfer, and we've also tried to slice it up that way so you can see at a glance which tools will be most useful depending on which stage of the process you're at. So, and you can check out the guidance document, of course, in detail in your own time. But Antonella, should we jump into the tools and have a look?
Absolutely. So let's start with tools for stakeholder mapping and analysis. And let's start with the Quintuple Innovation Helix Model. This is a framework for interdisciplinary analysis of sustainable development and social ecology. It leverages an integrated and place-based approach to sustainable urban development, where integration across different stakeholders belonging to the 5 helices of environment, civil society, academia, government, and industry. One of the greatest strengths of this model is its ability to map stakeholders in relation to the natural environment. This model helps recognizing elements of the natural world as stakeholders in their own right. It also ensures balanced representation from all 4 major sectors: public, private, academia, education, and civil society, to drive meaningful and inclusive change. However, the model needs to be translated into an operational tool, for example, a spreadsheet or another structured format, to facilitate real-world application and decision-making.
So the second tool we'd like to share with you, which is a favorite of ours actually, is about empathy mapping. And empathy mapping, as the name suggests, is about trying to walk in someone else's shoes. and trying to understand their mindset. It comes from the School of Person-Centered Planning. It's especially useful when you are trying to engage with hard-to-reach stakeholders. Small businesses are a good example. Quite often, young people, citizens from particular communities can be hard to reach for all sorts of reasons. And the version that we are sort of highlighting here is one which enables us to discuss as a group together the feelings and actions of this particular target group. This is usually a highly participative exercise. It lends itself well to group work. It's a highly dynamic way of working, and also externalizes some of the assumptions we make about some of the target groups we're trying to engage with. Quite often, in my experience, it works very well in terms of generating insights, sharing some of the thoughts we have around particular groups, and critically how we might have address them more effectively. One other caveat is it doesn't take the place of engaging with these groups directly. If you can get them in the room, that is always way better than having a conversation about what they might or might not think. One other thing, I know Antonella's had experience of this recently, where you can use this tool to bring non-human voices into the process. If we're thinking about projects with an environmental process and thinking about the natural world, this gives us, it's a playful way of us being able to kind of widen the conversation, and check our understanding about the impact of this work on stakeholders who otherwise have no way of articulating their inputs. Yeah, and it's a very effective tool, and it's one that you should jump in and try, because it raises all sorts of surprising results in my experience.
Thank you, Eddy. So now let's explore some examples of tools for stakeholder engagement and retention. Before we dive in, here are a few strategic considerations to keep in mind. No matter the level of engagement you're aiming for, the key to success is being mindful of your stakeholders. There are some essential principles to keep in mind. Number one, you can show your interest and respect by listening actively and acknowledging stakeholders' perspectives. Number two, you can adapt to different communication styles by recognizing and respecting different preferences in how people engage. Number three, you can find the right voice by tailoring your messaging to resonate with your audience. Number four, you can mobilize ad hoc resources, being flexible and responsive to stakeholders' needs. Number five, you can provide regular feedback by keeping stakeholders informed and involved throughout the process. Overall, by integrating these principles, you will create a more inclusive and effective engagement strategy that fosters long-term collaboration and trust.
So we're going to look at a couple of tools related to this now. So the first of these is citizens panels, which may be familiar to many of you. And what we try to do in this guide is put in some tools which are maybe less familiar, some which are maybe better known. So there's a nice mix. This idea of citizens panels and this notion of bringing together ad hoc panels of stakeholders, it can be really powerful in terms of bringing in different voices, really helpful from the early stages in terms of trying to set projects up. It's almost like a jury principle, where you might bring together a randomly selected cross-section of society to help you get insights into perspectives on the project, views on what the work is you're trying to do. You're asking people, of course, to invest time. You're asking them to bring the right attitude and to be honest about their perspectives, but it's a very good way to unpack some complex issues: sustainable urban development, democracy, health, environmental issues, civil rights, some of these kind of complex, challenging, sometimes very divisive issues. We can create a kind of microcosm environment to enable a conversation which might not otherwise take place. And it's also a space where you can pave the way for some small-scale testing and some fieldwork activity. And then finally, I think maybe a little caveat is to say that this kind of work and any kind of work which is heavily process driven requires quite careful preparation. It needs thoughtful execution. You shouldn't just jump into it without making sure you are very well prepared, because the risk then is it backfires and is counterproductive. But I think it's really worth investing time and energy in, and some of our projects are already doing this kind of work. So you can see some examples which can help you see how we do this for real. And it's really, really worth exploring.
So here we are with our final advice, which focuses on the challenge of retaining stakeholder engagement. The EUI transfer process typically lasts for around 2+ years. So how can we keep stakeholders' attention and interest for such a long period of time? This slide addresses some of the motivating factors that might drive stakeholder involvement, while the next one shows a framework which can support a more structured approach to stakeholder retention. The EUI guidance contains our reflections on each of these tools to help you decide what is best for you. But we are really keen to hear about your own approaches to these issues. It might be the case that you need to adapt some of these tools to your project, so make sure your transfer expert is working closely with you on this process.
Absolutely, and I think we're all on a learning curve, a massive learning curve in this new work. So it's a great opportunity to learn from one another, to share our experiences, to take some risks, to try new things. Don't stick to the tools you know. Get out of your comfort zone and try some new things which you're maybe less familiar with. Final thought from my side is, on the slide here you can see, and in the guidance, we signposted to lots of additional resources. Your transfer expert, of course, can help you know what to use, when, how to adapt it, as Antonella just said, so it works as well as it possibly can for you at the local level. And we're really keen to keep the dialogue going, to keep in touch with you and to hear from you about your experiences, and we hope you find the guidance useful.
Thank you, Eddy. So for today, that's all from us. We hope these resources will help you get the best results in stakeholder mapping and engagement throughout your transfer journey. Good luck with that.